What's going on, everyone? We hope you had a great day in the market today. Looking at today's heat map, around 58% of stocks in the S&P 500 closed down in the red. And I hope you guys are as excited as we are because we are heading into the biggest trading day of the week. The Jackson Hole Symposium is on the schedule for tomorrow. Jerome Powell and central bankers all around the world are basically getting together, and we're gonna see some fireworks in the market. So in today's video, we're gonna cover why this event is so important, how it has offered some major opportunities over recent years, and we're also going to cover all the important information and historical data that you need to know to make tomorrow a great end of the week. But we have a lot to cover today, a lot of important information, so make sure to stick with us all the way until the end. But besides that, Tom, we are not wasting any time today. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, the SPY was pretty red today. Ended up closing down 0.78%. That's a pretty bad move by the SPY. It actually fell under 560 again, which was a pretty good breakdown opportunity in the middle of the day. I know a lot of bears were loving a lot of this price action from today, and it looks like traders are de-risking a little bit ahead of the Jackson Hole event tomorrow. So this event's huge. Central bankers and economists from around the world meet up at this event. Obviously, there's news outlets and other things like that allowed as well, but Powell will be speaking tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I will have this event live on the StockedUp Live channel, so make sure you check that out tomorrow around the market open. But overall, Mike, Jackson Hole is huge. We saw a huge de-risking today, and whenever Jackson Hole happens, we start to see some pretty insane price action, sometimes, right? Of course, not every single time this event happens, the market's going to go crazy. But looking at this chart here, I found this extremely interesting, and to see how some of these previous Powell Jackson Hole events have played out. And in 2022, we saw a massive drop. In 2019, a pretty big drop as well. Now, of course, sometimes the market does rise during these, but I'll tell you what, when it does fall, it falls pretty drastically.
Big time. And I was just looking at some price action and data on SPY on a daily chart, and I was looking at some of the giant red candles that we saw in August. And as we could remember, there was a lot of panic about a month ago, or I guess you could say earlier this month, and I guess you could say towards the end of July as well. But as we look at some of those red days, they were red by, let's say, 2% or 1.4%, or you could say 1.8%. And then, Tom, when we go back to that chart you were just showing, you could see the red days on the bad Jackson Hole event years are as bad as 3.4% to as bad as 2.6%. So what it essentially goes to show is, just like you said, Tom, when the Jackson Hole events are bad, they're pretty bad. So you have to be prepared for them. And of course, some years it ends up being fine, and that is worth keeping in mind. But as we look at the market tomorrow, it will be very important to remain adaptable and be willing to, I guess you could say, follow the flows, follow the money. If we see a giant flush, it's going to be important to recognize, which direction the momentum is flowing in, and also understand what parts of the market are suffering and what parts of the market are gaining. Like in many times throughout market history, we could see when there's, you could say, general market panic, like let's say with stocks overall, maybe other areas of the market like gold and silver or just like safer stocks might be getting great inflows. So for tomorrow, it's all going to be a game of momentum.
Yeah, it definitely is. In the short term, we're going to talk about a few stocks later on, like Zoom and others that are doing quite well in the short term in their own rights. And those will be pretty awesome. They're not even that correlated to the market, but we will get into that later in the video. So definitely stick around for that. But looking at the SPY for tomorrow, Mike, today was a pretty big pullback. We're back down to a pretty key 555 support. That's definitely going to be a big level to keep on the radar tomorrow ahead of this Jackson Hole event. If we start to see Powell speak and the market ends up tanking off, that's not going to be a good sign. But, what is everybody really looking for at the Jackson Hole event? They're looking at rate cuts. They're wondering, hey, what's going on here? Are the Feds going to kind of lay out the groundworks for, a cut coming in September, or are they going to maybe pivot just a little bit? But, looking at this chart here, like we talked about yesterday, the market right now is pricing in like a 75% chance of that rate cut happening in September. And, of course, there's rate cuts being priced priced in for the next meetings after that as well. So we'll have to see how this ends up shaking out, Mike. But, these rate cuts, and whenever you start to look at some of the data out there, I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, whenever rate cuts happen, that's going to be amazing for the stock market, right? And I think that this year we've actually been seeing kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news type of event going on. And, you can see by this chart here that every time that there's a rate cut, that doesn't necessarily mean the market's going to go flying up in the short term.
No doubt. And like you said, a lot of people have like I guess you could say, perception that rate cuts are always a good thing. But when you look back at market history, that has just been proven not to be true. Of course, in 2000, there was a clear example of that. And the same thing with 2008 and 2009. But even as you go back like further throughout history, you could see when the Fed funds rate does drop, which is that black line on the screen right now, we tend to see some selling pressure in the market as a whole. So just definitely keep that in mind. We like to show charts like this one ahead of time so everyone could be better prepared for just the market as these situations play out. So either way, keep this chart in your head going forward. Feel free to screenshot it as well. But one area of the market that tends to benefit quite a bit when we do see rate cuts is the price of gold. So basically, as we can see by looking at this chart, when we see the rate cuts start to happen, gold prices have benefited from that quite a bit in the past. And what's even more exciting, Tom, is that the price of gold is already on the rise before rate cuts have even started.
Yeah, it looks like the market might be pricing that in a little bit here in the short term, right? We've been talking about that, maybe like that buy the rumor, sell the news going on, at least with the overall market and rate cuts. But gold's been doing very well in the short term also. And, this could maybe also be shown like, hey, this is a sign that the economy really isn't doing the best right now. We just saw them revise the jobs numbers down to 800,000. It was quite the revision, right? It definitely shows that the jobs market's not as good as, they were trying to previously say. And I just feel like that, the economy's been pretty rough. There's a lot of people that argue that we're actually already in a recession, but they just changed the definition. So, of course, now we're not. But that's one thing to think about with gold. I think that there's a lot of fear out there, and there's a lot of people obviously still bullish on the market, but at the same time, I think that a lot of people do see a little bit of underlying risk with the economy here. And, if rates start to drop a little bit, gold's going to be an awesome asset to run into here.
It also says a lot how a gold bar is now worth $1 million for the first time ever. So I don't know how many of you saw this news, but this just happened, and it says a lot because people buy gold for protection, not only from just like economic uncertainty and fear, but also for like an inflation hedge as well. And for those of you who've been following the channel for a while now, know that we've been talking about gold, silver, and like mining companies in a pretty bullish way all year long. So keep a close eye on GLD going forward. This is an ETF that follows gold prices. It is right around record highs. You have ticker symbol GDX, which is for gold mining companies. And then you have ticker symbol SLV for silver. So those are some nice ways to follow gold. But another thing worth keeping in mind for Jackson Hole tomorrow is not only to keep a close eye on gold, because it can definitely move up in a strong way and just move in a momentum-driven way, but to also keep an eye on TLT, as this ETF follows like longer duration bonds. So basically, if there's like an emotional reaction in the market with interest rates, TLT will move quite a bit, and TLT has pretty liquid options as well. So we definitely want to showcase this so you could keep it on your radar for tomorrow. Of course, you have SPY to watch as well. And then as the video progresses, we'll share some of our more specific setups for tomorrow. But Tom, we are basically clear for tomorrow's earnings schedule, and the economic calendar is taken up by the Jackson Hole Symposium. But what do we have on the schedule just to be Just to be clear.
Yeah, so on the earnings side of things, pretty much nothing tomorrow. This was a pretty decent earnings week overall, but earnings season is cooling off a little bit. But going to the economic calendar here for tomorrow, there will be some home sales, but the big deal is Jackson Hole and Powell at 10 a.m. Eastern time. If you guys miss this, I'm going to be very upset tomorrow. I better see everybody in the Discord and on the Stocked Up Live YouTube channel as well. So let's go. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, it's going to be one hell of an event. And, like we keep showing, Mike, this Jackson Hole event has brought quite the volatility in the past. And with the SPY just being at such crucial levels right now, right at the all-time high, I think today was a little bit of a de-risking. What if we end up double topping and having a pretty significant pullback here off of this event? It definitely won't be good, but at the same time, maybe the event can get us back to all-time highs. But it's going to be a big one, that's for sure. And I know a lot of people were hedging ahead of this into today as well.
And that's a smart decision, because as you look at the SPY, like we've covered over recent weeks, it's not like the economy's in perfect shape right now, and the market itself is still so close to all-time highs. We're heading into a giant event. We have the election coming up pretty soon, so it makes a lot of sense to lock in some profits, and I think that is exactly what we saw in the market today. The market was down close to 1%, which is certainly more than average, and the market erased a lot of its gains for the entire week, and the NASDAQ actually is negative on the week now. So I think that also says a lot, but it also just goes to show that people are nervous about this event. So keep that in mind. But Tom, what are the levels looking like for SPY tomorrow in both directions? I know we have a lot of heavy resistance overhead.
Yeah, we definitely do. So in the short term here, 562 and 563 is going to be huge before we get towards the all-time high, which is up around 565. That is going to be the major resistance. We have to go back on an hourly chart quite a bit here, or like a 15-minute chart, to see that all-time high. But 565 is going to be huge overhead. As far as major supports coming up, I'm really watching 555 very closely. That was pretty much the peak at the beginning of August before the drop, and I really like 555 tomorrow as support. I'll also be watching for 550, 548, and 547 to the downside below there. But other than that, Mike, that's pretty much it here for those SPY levels. I'm mainly looking at the larger levels for tomorrow. I think that there's going to be a lot of noise tomorrow ahead of the event, and of course during it. Expect some volatility and some chop. Don't expect just a straight run up or anything like that. We might see some volatility mixed in before a true direction gets picked.
Alrighty. Well, with that being said, let's jump right into some setups and predictions for tomorrow. A stock I'm watching very closely is Tesla, and it's to the downside. So Tesla is one of those stocks that is relatively weak compared to other big tech stocks right now. Today it closed down by almost 6%, which is a lot, and that intraday price action was pretty brutal. So people are definitely selling out of this one a lot more than other big tech stocks, and I would not be surprised if this momentum continued in tomorrow, assuming that the market-wide momentum was bearish as well. But either way, in the event we do see some bearish price action tomorrow, Tesla will be one of the first stocks I look to, given the, I guess you could say, overwhelmingly bearish momentum that we saw today.
Yeah, it's actually at a pretty good support at 210 as well. I'll definitely be keeping it on the radar to the downside after falling 5.6% today. That was definitely quite the volatile drop by Tesla there. Leave it up to them, right? They love having some crazy moves every now and again. With my first play, I'm looking at Amazon. Also to the downside, Mike, and I'm watching a pretty key support in the short term right around 175, and we can see how big that support really is on the Bookmap. There were a few hits towards the end of the day today at some minor levels like 176, but you can really see just how much more volume there is at that 175 level. There's a lot of shares stacked up there, so I'm really watching that as support. If Amazon starts to move below that, I will watch it down. Now, of course, I will adapt and start to watch stocks back up, and I'll just be looking for whatever has the best flows, like on Zoom or a couple others. And I know we'll be talking about Zoom in just a second, but nonetheless, that's what I'm looking for on Amazon, is that 175 support.
Sounds great. Yeah, that's a giant level right there. But like you said, Tom, another stock I'm watching pretty closely is Zoom, and it is to the upside. I've been hitting on this stock all week, and their earnings ended up having quite the day, you can say. Zoom stock popped up by 13%, and the stock had one of its best days in years, and there was a lot of great bullish momentum here, and Zoom's a stock that has been so oversold for, so long now, and it's starting to, finally see, a sentiment shift, which is great. So either way, Zoom is definitely on my bullish radar for tomorrow.
Mike, you know why Zoom is moving up here in the short term? And this is going to freak some people out. It's because Kathy Wood sold out of Zoom. She's ARK is officially done holding ZM right now. I can't even believe I'm saying that, Mike, but I'm going to laugh my ass off if this ends up being the exact bottom and Kathy just sold out, I got to say this, poor Kathy Wood has taken a lot of flack over the past year, but I don't know, Mike. I mean, why sell it now after all this?
Her average was $280 a share, and she dumped out a lot lower than that. We'll put it that way. It's almost giving me flashbacks to the Nvidia trade. It's I think she sold out of that one literally a couple months right before Nvidia had the largest run up in stock market history. So that's kind of rough there. But either way, Zoom stock is running with some great momentum, and it's definitely on my bullish radar for tomorrow.
Yeah, mine too. I love it. It's having a lot of great inflows, and for the next couple days, even if the market's a little shaky, Zoom has a mind of its own, so it could be a great stock to look at in the short term here. With my next play, I'm looking at UVXY to the upside. It was up 6.8% today as we saw the market pull back a little bit, and if we continue to see the QQQ and the SPY reject off of these recent highs, we'll continue to see UVXY probably explode in the short term. Whenever the market falls, volatility usually increases, and VIX had a pretty good move up today. Now, VIX, I should say, actually just had a historic pullback, one of the quickest pullbacks it's ever had after rising that much in the short term. So I'm definitely kind of looking for VIX to pop a little bit, Mike, especially with Jackson Hole. If there's some volatility, definitely look at UVXY.
All right, great stuff there, and let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have AMD to the downside.
AMD, another bad stock here in the short term. They're sitting right around $150, so if they break under there, then watch them back down.
All right, with the next one, we have Peloton to the upside.
Peloton continued with earnings today too, kind of like Zoom, but if they end up breaking out above 475, then watch them up as well.
All right, and then with the last one, we have SQ for both directions.
Square, yeah, so Square started to fall off a little bit today, down 2.76%, but I do like the growth stocks in the short term. If Square falls under $63, then watch them back down, but they are right around a pretty good support at 64. So if they end up bouncing off of that and re-breaking 65, then watch them back up.
All right, so we have the upside level for a potential move higher, and then we have the downside level for a potential move lower. This is for SQ. Don't forget about the upside level with Peloton, and then the downside level with AMD. These three stocks are on watch tomorrow if and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. If they don't break the levels listed, then do not force the trades. The stronger the move, the better the momentum trade becomes. So keep these three stocks on watch. And besides that, let's jump right into today's $512,000 big money trade. And we are looking at ticker symbol TSM. So we've been hitting on this stock quite a bit over the past couple of days in a bearish way, and it has definitely been flushing lower, and it looks like the big money sniffed that out too. But looking at this trade, the big money bought the $167.50 strike put options that expire on September 20th of 2024. This is a bearish trade where the big money wants TSM to fall. The lower it falls, the more they will make. These put options are already at the money. There's around 30 days left of time to them. The stock has been continuously making lower highs. We've been seeing a lot of relative bearishness with chip stocks in the short term, which definitely helps a big money trade like this one. And at the same time, if we do see a flush tomorrow, a trade like this one can definitely offer some protection. But as we look at this big money trade, I definitely like the reward to risk skew, but also understand that naturally, buying a put option that only has 30 days to expiration has its own unique risks. And it's just worth keeping in mind that TSM is at a major level right now, and we are heading into a very highly anticipated event. But either way, definitely keep this trade on your radar.
Yeah, it could be huge, and if we start to see, let's say TSM flush below 166 tomorrow, that might be a good area to maybe look for an entry on the big money play, especially if you start to see the market start to flush from Powell speaking or something like that. Maybe have the entry ready, and if you start to see a flush, that could be another way to go, and then you just follow the big money after that. But I definitely like this rejection in the short term, Mike. This 173 to 175 resistance is huge. We rejected at 175 a ton last week, and then this week we've been rejecting at 173, failing to break 3 different times over the past couple days. So keep watching it down in the short term. Like you said, it is a little riskier. It's a shorter term play, but at the same time, it's always fun to have some shorter term plays mixed in, right?
Yeah, you know it. So either way, keep this stock on watch going forward. But again, we have a very important day ahead of us tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of volatility, a lot of big moves, and a lot of craziness. Make sure to stay level-headed. Make sure to be willing to adapt with the market as it progresses. Keep a close eye on gold, silver, interest rates, which is TLT, SPY, big tech stocks, and just, the market as a whole. Follow the money. Have a plan before you enter trades. Don't just randomly pick up or down and just hope for the best. Have a plan, have stop losses, and respect that plan. Let's have a great day in the market tomorrow, and let's trade smart and disciplined. If you guys are new to the channel, consider obliterating that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. We post all the time and cover the most important information, charts, news, setups, big money plays, and everything you have to know about the market in normally 20 to 25 minutes or less. So consider joining the Stocked Up crew there to get our videos recommended to you more often. But before we close out, I want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Big E in the Stocked Up Discord, who had a pretty great post today with some Zoom bullish plays, some Zoom call options. So it was great to see a nice screenshot like this one. So keep up the great work going forward. Last but not least, if you guys still have not tried out Bookmap yet, now is the time to try it. We have a huge event tomorrow, and trading without Bookmap and seeing, important levels like the $175 level with Amazon is kind of like driving a car blindfolded. you need to see this information. So if you guys did want to try it out, you can save it using the first link in the description and the comments down below. Basically, a special offers icon appears at checkout if you use the link down below, and it has some pretty nice savings attached to it. Besides that, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and let's end the week on a green note.